Yeah, how are you doing?
Hey, good. How are you doing? Hey,
Good.
Sean.
We were running a little bit late, but everything is good now. So
Better late.
we have your RCM presentation today. I will let you actually share your screen so we can start with your presentation, and after that, I'll have some questions for you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Yep.
All right. So hi everyone. My name is Alpsente. I'm one of the client managers here at United Medical. Today I will be talking about the best practices for medical offices. So let's start with first, what are best practices and why do we need best practices, right? So best practices are written guidelines for medical offices developed by United Medical in order to improve workflows and efficiency for all aspects of a medical practice, as well as the communication between the medical offices that are our clients and us. So we need the best practices because we need the improved standards in every process. And that also comes along with improved communication and efficiency, as I already mentioned. So that's why at United Medical, we came up with these best practices, written standards to help improve the efficiency between United Medical and medical offices to help serve our clients better. So there are four types of functions in a medical office. These are: one, your check-in people; two, your medical assistants; three, your practice administrator; and finally, four, your checkout staff. And each of these have different functions that they do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. So we kind of broke this down with each role. So the first role is for the check-in staff. When we divided these into different categories, we divided it by when needed, what kind of function does this need, and what do they need to do. So for check-in staff, we have different responsibilities that they have. They have stuff to do a day before the visit, at the time of the visit. They have stuff that they need to do daily, every single day, and also as needed as well. Some examples for each of these are, for example, a day before the visit, we have our daily appointment reminders that go out automatically. So they need to confirm these daily appointments, and then they can call the patients who did not confirm through these automated call reminders. And then at the time of the visit, they have to make sure that the patient is checked in and all the demographic information has been updated and everything is up to date, everything is good. And they also need to collect and post copays and outstanding balances, so we're not dealing with these high patient balances later on. And then also daily, they need to check the office and clinical pool and inbox. They need to collect mail and deliver to the office manager. So duties like that. And then next, we have the medical assistant. So we usually advise our medical assistants to prepare the charts for the patients 2 days before the visit. And then they also need to check power chart and QuickBase, which we utilize a lot for open care gaps, and see if we can do anything for these before the patient actually comes for their office visit. And then as they receive, they need to take a look at the office pool messages and then communicate these with the providers and the patients to kind of be that bridge in between. And then they also need to be the TOC follow through as they receive these TOC from the hospitals, that the patients need to see the doctors after they got admitted to the hospitals. And then at the time of the visit, they have IQ health invitations, sign the patients up, and then record the vital signs, just like any MA does. And then daily, they need to be cleaning the exam rooms. They need to be doing the EPA work list, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot in this list. I'm not going to go through them one by one, but you guys get the gist of it. So number 3 is our practice administrator. So the practice administrator actually needs to be looking at the patient inquiries as they receive. If the patients are inquiring about a balance on their account, if for a no-show fee, for a cancellation fee, they need to be reviewing those. And then at the checkout, they need to be managing the patient surveys. And then daily, of course, they need to be always reviewing the office pool, the messages, the patient's charts, and then they need to open and sort mail as well daily, because these are usually time-sensitive documents that we receive in the mail. And then we also have first thing in the AM, when they first come into the office, they need to check the deposits as well. This is also a really important process that the practice administrators need to do. And they also have some other duties that they need to do weekly, bi-monthly, and as needed as well. And lastly, we have our checkout people. So at the time of the visit, they need to change the status to checkout so that information transfers from SPM to Power Chart so that the charges get entered. And then they need to collect super bills when applicable. And then they need to be completing the outstanding orders in tasks. These are all at the time of the visit. And then daily, they need to be answering and screening phone calls. They need to be checking Power Chart, inbox, and pools. They also need to be closing the PM systems, the SPMs batches for the practice workers. So these are some of the stuff that checkout people do. Well, this was an overall look. Again, I kind of flew through those slides, but as needed, we can pass these along to the clients for more information, and they can see all these little details in there for best practices. Now I'm going to talk about how the best practices tie into what we do in our department, the revenue cycle management department, because they all go hand in hand. So this is one of the reports that I work for one of our clients. We're looking at their daily appointments versus the charges. So if the check-in and check-out people are doing what they're supposed to do and the MAs are doing what they're supposed to do. So if every little function is doing this correctly, this report would be exactly identical. So you would see the patient, the charge would get entered the same day. There would be no late charge entries, and then everything would be caught up. But here we can see for this client, for the week of May 22nd, there's around 130 appointments that were not charged yet. So we don't really want to see that. That's why all these functions, they need to go hand in hand. And then this is also another report that we provide to our clients every end of month report and during our meetings. So this is showing the top check-in and check-out denials reports for the last 3 months. This is again for a real client. So these are real numbers. We're not disclosing the client, but we can see the denial origin for check-in or check-out or office admin related denials with the decodes that we use. So for example, in this case, we were able to see that in the last 3 months, there was a total of 930 denials entered, and 592 of these, which is equal to 64%, is coming from check-in related denials. And then 33.7% is coming due to checkout related denials. And then we also have a really, really small percentage is coming from the office admin related denials. We can also take a look at these numbers month by month. So for example, the checkout was at 135 total denials in March, then that went down to 116 in April, then that went down to 85 in the month of May. And then we have the same report with a little bit more explanation, but this is showing the total number. We can also divide these by months as well, but this also includes what kind of decode we use and the code's description as well. So at the top of our list here, we have a check-in related denial, which was at 320 denials for the last 3 months for this client, which is the incorrect missing insurance information for patient. So, and this is check-in related. Then, and the second one on our list is a D063, which is incorrect ID, relationship, date of birth. This is again check-in related. There was 89 of these, and the list keeps going on like this. So yeah, that was it from me. Thank you. I know you said you have some questions, I think.
So yes, now I guess what we need to understand is why we are actually sharing these and how this is actually helping. So in every business and everything actually in life, there has to be a checks and balance, right? So in order to have these checks and balance, you have to have an accountable, trackable, dependent and interdependent elements of the system in place, so then you can actually keep track of all these workflows that we created. So the reason we have the best practices we call, I mean, even if it doesn't capture everything that offices are doing, they have to stay in a system, because the way that you explain how they would actually have, between the, let me actually just play this video that we have. So like when we have, when someone is responsible and they originated, when they need to originate it, when they do it, who should be checking that? These are all part of this big system that we have. And many businesses, they suffer from these system-related issues because they resist to the idea of adopting the system. So we work with our clients directly in real time. We use the same system. And what we want to make sure that it's clear to them and to us is that everything that's happening in their office is affecting us, and everything is happening, and every action that we are taking is affecting the client workflow and the outcome. And this can even go to a level of like patient experience, patient satisfaction, because every experience that patient has, it adds to the experience that they have. So that's why we build these job descriptions, best practices, and reports and denial codes, so that way we can have this interdependent system in place. And the teams of office versus United Medical in the RCM side, we can work together. Now, but your experience with the system is relatively new, because it's been almost 2 years, right? And then you start doing a lot of different things. Not everyone is doing as much as you do in this short amount of time. So you probably have a really good understanding of, like, when I was actually working with you in the beginning, maybe it wasn't making perfect sense. Now we know that, okay, this is why it's happening, and then this is why it should be happening, because there's some redundancies that we have in place, right? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually just going to say about that, because, I like analytics a lot as well. I was just in a call with one of our clients like a couple of hours ago, and we were going over the numbers, and we saw that the D022s really went up within the last month. So we were able to dig deep a little bit more, and then we were able to see that there was more like Highmark patients and Medicare patients that were the insurance information was being entered incorrectly. And when we presented that to the client, now they know when they're checking these patients in, they need to double check to see if they actually have Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, or if they have like Independence Blue Cross that's being entered incorrectly to the system. So they actually love that feedback as well, and that helps them, and at the same time us as well. So I think it's great. I love that system.
And not just from the RCM side. So I'm going to let Sean in, so because he's one of his responsibilities, he's with me on the case conferences on the clinical side. So then we have a pretty similar system for that as well.
Yeah.
So and it's also helping when we are able to share these with our employees, plus with the client. I think it's helping the overall efficiency. So that's why I do like having these sessions, and hopefully we can do better and improve more.
Yeah. I think, as you're mentioning right there, just with the clinical case conference that we have in the morning, you're seeing some patterns that develop, and as Alp mentioned too, the analytics behind it. Not only are you understanding certain patterns, but then once you get so comfortable, you get to a point where you can actually predict in the future what we're actually going to see, and kind of extrapolate some data. And that's actually where you get, at that level of comfort, that's where you get even more impactful. So,
all right. Well, Alp, thank you so much for joining. So I know you guys are busy, and then sometimes I try to get into that busy schedule, and I know you probably have client meetings for the rest of the day. So thank you again. So we'll see you soon for other topics.
Yep, of course. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye. All right. So we haven't done our regular
It's
events,
been,
right?
yeah, we had a couple of weeks off, and we had Senator Townsend last week. So it's actually been probably, I would say, at least a month since we've had one of our regular update sessions. Yeah.
So now let's start with the first video I have is US economy.
Yeah, so we have one that has some of our US economy and political updates. And then later on, we're going to get to some of the tech announcements that we've seen recently in the news. But for this one here, we are starting. We touched on this last week with Senator Townsend about the upcoming elections in 2024, what possible position changes we're anticipating, what we're kind of predicting, what looks to be making the most sense logistically. And the candidates we had there, we have Lisa Blunt-Rochester. These are notable candidates we have listed just so people can kind of keep track of which important figures may be switching from one role to the other. And we also had Sarah McBride. Of course, she's been on our show multiple times, along with Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall-Long, and then Chris Coons, which I have not actually had a session myself with him yet. But these are just some of the notable figures that we're trying to keep tabs on and see what they're doing, if they're going to actually announce any candidacies that they're going to pursue. And if they are able to, these are also figures that we would like to either invite to return to our show or maybe have them for an initial visit on our show.
So, well, I think from the politics to Delaware politics, which, with the Joe Biden's presidency, vice presidency first and then presidency, I think Delaware became the key, one of the key states.
Sure.
Now, Chris Coons, in 2010, he was one of the junior senators, but now he's one of the senior senators. It's been 2 terms already. So in 2024, he won't be out, I don't believe.
I'll check on that.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, they're not.
No, yeah, he's going to be in 2026 because they're for 6 years. Right? So, and then we, from our medical side, working with our lieutenant governor, and then now most likely with Lisa Rochester and Sarah McBride, I think they will be the key players for the state of Delaware, and therefore we'll have a really good close look at what they are doing and how they can actually help the healthcare and the issue that we are dealing with our patients, what our patients are dealing with. So it's going to be a tough, probably it's going to be a little bit difficult term for everyone, but in Delaware it's a blue state, so I don't think it's going to be a huge
like we're saying, there might be a little shake up on if people are going up, so to speak, in their roles and responsibilities, or staying status quo. But like I said, these are just a few of the figures that we're keeping tabs on, and ideally like to get them back to our show and be able to talk with them.
And we do want to congratulate President Erdogan of Turkey. After 21 years, he was able to run for another term.
Yes.
And on the second round, he was able to get elected. So that's going to be for 5 years. Turkey is probably, there's a lot of potential troubles that I see in that region. And Turkey has a very big role to keep the region stable. And then they've been, actually what President Erdogan has been doing so far, pretty remarkable in terms of not siding with Russia or Ukraine altogether, and then having that, keeping that good balance. That requires a lot of experience and I think skills. So not everyone is able to do it. So From the stability standpoint, I think his presidency is going to be beneficial for not just for Turkey, but for the rest of the other countries around Turkey. And hopefully they can overcome some of the economic, financial issues, and they will be successful for the people of Turkey. So now we have in our U.S. economy, we have debt ceiling was an issue. Now that's no longer a problem, but actually it is a bigger problem. As the problem is no longer exists, it becomes a bigger problem, right?
Exactly, yeah. So with our debt ceiling, we've been kind of tracking that. They did eventually, bump it up, so it's not that they're reaching that plateau, but I think a concern, like you're saying, to keep in the back of the mind is like, how many more times can you keep bumping that? Because like right now you're kind of buying that breathing room that, yes, we're surpassing, expanding it, but to then reapproach that threshold in the future, it's like, what are you going to do to prevent, getting that close again? So
the problem is, you remember that U.S. debt calculator?
Yeah, we have that.
So we have that running.
Yeah.
So we look at that, and yesterday I was showing you going back to 2019 or 16. So the national debt was about 19 trillion. 19.5. So today that number is approaching to 32 trillion.
Correct.
So this is in 6 years, right?
Yeah,
so,
7 years, the difference of $12 trillion.
Yeah, it's going to double. If one more year like this, it's going to double since 2016. Now, this number increasing, that being increased, what does it mean? Is that means this money is spent somewhere. Either it's given to people, it's or given to businesses, or it's spent for defense, it's spent for other agenda. But it's when this number increases so bad, what it tells us that something is not being managed properly. So if you have to borrow almost 70% more than where you were 6 years ago, you are not doing it. And then that's what we have been telling people, that this is this trend is not the best trend for us. So that's why. So this is why I actually got out of that Wi-Fi.
Yeah, lucky you.
So
I think it might.
You guys are going in and out, but I'm there. So
yeah,
I should be okay.
It says it's reconnecting. So I'm still here in the room, but
yeah. So. This is why we bring these up to people's attention, to see like when they are fighting over the debt ceiling, it's not like one side wants and the other side doesn't want. But then the main thing is, regardless of where you are, the increase means being responsible financially, budget issues, and the things are not going well. So that's what we are trying to tell everyone, to make sure that they have a better preparation. Because if you look around and then see how expensive everything got, and how the people's income didn't go up, and then now I see, like we talk about how expensive everything is more and more. It didn't used to be like that. No,
it was like a common theme. Even back months ago when we were tracking the gas prices and how they were actually jumping up, and I think it was like at one point like 15 cents, like overnight it almost seemed like going up a gallon. And as we mentioned back then, part of what we wanted is to inform people that if we talk about the national debt, but also the fact of the burden it has on the individual, and the bottom of the totem pole, or however you want to phrase that, is that you will feel that impact down the line, whether a policy that's passed or put into play this year, you may not feel it until 6 months or a year later, but at some point that will catch up to you. That's what we're saying.
Absolutely. There's no getting out of it. So we'll always pay they'll pay the consequences, right? So we'll always deal with the consequences. In some cases, if you are like very powerful, then you may change the rules in the middle of the game. Then we may have that advantage, maybe. But the thing is, right now, there isn't any optimism. Like I want to be more optimistic, but everything that I see, that's not helping. So,
and with that too, keeping tabs on, you're saying comparing the individual and the burden they're facing versus what the U.S. government as a whole, where we're seeing alarming. We've discussed it, but the fact that there's other nations moving away from that U.S. dollar and how that will trickle down and have an impact on the citizen, where the trading power that they would lose in that international currency exchange rate, it actually makes it even more detrimental if the U.S. dollar is kind
so
of
I think the time that we are in, I definitely feel like things are going to be different than how it used to be. Not just for us, but for most of the other probably countries. Some are going to be in a good way, some are not. So that's why it's important for us to stay as much as stay above the water, and then make sure that we don't actually follow the same issues that other countries are having. So, for example, for us to lock up our former president is it looks extremely bad. It looks like South America, like or like the Middle East, or any other countries that we always criticize, and we were always proud of. Like, okay, these things won't happen in the United States, but now the political agenda is so corrupt in a way that we are going after the former presidents, and how is that going to look? Like, you really have to put your strength out there, not try to change the rules or be unfair just because you're in power. Regardless of, like, we all have our disagreements with Trump, but he's the former president of the United States. Right. So that fact doesn't change. Just like Bill Clinton is the former president, just like Obama is the former president. Right? It doesn't change. Like, they represent this country, and when you are trying to put one person in jail because of the problem that they have, but another person doesn't have to deal with same consequences, that's where the problem starts, and everything is going to be more unpredictable in a way that, so then they're going to say, well, this is another Colombia, or I don't know, like Guatemala or some other country that has been happening, like these types of issues always been happening. So that's what we are worried about, and that's why we are actually kind of like pointing out these. There has to be a better game. Everyone has to just work a little bit differently, more creative in a way that if, like, Trump is able to come out of this, trouble that he had in 2020, the loss that he had, and then right now, if he looks strong, beating him is not going to happen in the courts. It's going to happen in election. If we believe that we have the case, that's where we have to be. Not like, I'm tired of saying this. I never supported Trump, and I work with the Democrats in the state of Delaware very closely. Like, in some of the candidates in their finance committee. So, and then I still have to be fair, and also point out the issues that is potentially problematic for us, because it's affecting the entire system. So, like, we have certain stability. Like, if someone is not able to make decisions for next year in terms of, like, buying a house, buying a car, or making some expensive purchase, and just saying that, well, I don't see a clear picture, a clear future, so I'm going to delay.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Right. So, but so many times now, that's so frequent, right?
Too common.
Right. Too common. And 5 years ago, I would never hear that. So, because there was that stability, the stable, environment that we had, and that stability is going to be destroyed by not just one decision, but so many different things that's happening, and it will become the new culture in the United States, and that's what I'm worried, and hopefully hopefully we are wrong. So
yeah, like you're saying, it's definitely a crucial time right now. And as you're saying, you want to get ahead, whether it's, the US just in international, where this uncertainty on a global sense of the global economy, where you want to almost buy yourself some buffer room where you're not going to be on edge. But as you're saying, though, with the US especially, you think it would never happen here. A lot of other countries always have their eyes on the US. Like, what are they doing? How are they approaching this?
Yeah.
What can we take away from them? Almost as like a role model. So to see this kind of disorganization, like you're saying, going after a very, like, literally the last president, not like, oh, someone who maybe held it 4 presidencies ago, or how they even be alive, but it's just alarming in the global sense. And like you're saying,
but the main issue, like the standards has to be same, right? You can have double standards. You can have your taken either to, I mean, we all want it. Look, if it's up to me and if there's no consequences, I'm going to be so selfish. Fine. But you know that that's not reality. So we know that that's not fair, and we can get our way, right? So we all want to speed when we're on 95. We all want to don't stop at the stop sign if the fine wasn't $200, right? The only reason it stops me there is not because I'm so respectful to everyone. It's just because there may be a cop around the corner. That's $200. And there's a camera on every traffic light. So then 150, 200, and then if you got a couple of those. So that's what makes us accountable and also more respectful to the others. And then we become more like refined citizens. So if we change this, and then we know that like when we go out here, like I'm the CEO of this company and you are not, right? But we have to follow the same rules in the parking lot and then at the traffic light and everywhere else. So I don't get any special treatment just because, right? So this is where the problem is, where just because, well, if Trump did something and if he killed someone, well, as a U.S. president, he killed people, right? So in war, like it's not. Right? It's like this is just so ridiculous, and I think it's keeping everyone unnecessarily busy, and we are not focused on the real issues.
Yeah, and I would agree on that too. As a theme that we've had, where what are they shining the spotlight on, and you're seeing it's almost like it seems like they're scrambling to almost find something like what can we use, like what fragments of an issue can we find in his past. Like you were saying, before he was even president, it wasn't like he was doing it during presidency, as the scandal with Bill Clinton was while he was in office, he was doing certain things. But like you're saying, that hypocrisy on what level of pursuit that they're going after. And as you're saying, the accountability factor of if all of a sudden, let certain people do it, but others can't. When the public sees that, that's where you're going to cause that tension of not being up there.
And hopefully, the nonsense will stop. But I see the media, like I look at the mainstream media, and I think they're part of the problem. And how they are feeding this issue is just, I would say it's pretty disgusting. And that's why I kind of like doing these events, this channel, just so that at least we say what we need to say, right? So then we don't have to worry about what we are hearing all the time, but we can also tell people what is maybe not happening or what really is happening in many cases. So you want to talk about some more fun stuff?
On a positive note, we have two things in the tech world that we're going to talk on here. One of them we've been tracking and mentioned months ago, which was the Neuralink. So we'll see here in this slideshow that the FDA did approve the testing to now have Neuralink inserted on humans.
When Neuralink was so new, we made a lot of calls to Elon Musk, but he didn't actually hear any of those. But since then, I do have a blue tick. So then I'm hoping that he may now able to hear what we are saying. So as United Medical ACO, we have 115,000 patients. A lot of patients are dealing with dementia and Alzheimer and those types of disease. And now they got the FDA approval for the patient testing, right? then I think having a partnership would be like extremely cool for us, as we have maybe the right setup for what they are trying to do. Maybe instead of answering so many unnecessary stupid tweets, he'll answer one of our calls, and then maybe we'll have a meeting and we'll have some cool updates for our audience.
Yeah.
So because that thing actually is the future, so it's going to fix a lot of issues. It has so much potential. So
as I say, just especially in a field that you don't necessarily see that medical equipment. Like if you think of some of, I'm talking about like in regards to the mental health and the brain capacity, like you're saying with dementia, Alzheimer's, where in the past there's very little medical technologies available. You think of, people who had mental illness were getting like lobotomies, like that was the only option maybe, or they'd be locked up in an asylum type thing. But now this is kind of like a first step into that mental health, the brain capacity type from a medical sense,
Yeah, I mean, like people they live longer, right? So that's one thing. But I think I know at least maybe 3-4 friends, family members who are dealing with Alzheimer or dementia, and then their body is okay, but then the brain is not doing what it's supposed to be doing anymore, and it becomes extremely challenging to take care of your loved ones. And if there is a fix, even slight possibility is very important. And I know it's going to take time, but I think this would be something that Elon Musk should be spending his time and money, and should have a partnership with United Medicare. So, all right. Now, the other news is making me kind of like feel old. The Apple
Vision Pro, which that is a virtual reality headset, in a sense similar to, some people may be familiar with the Facebook, the Meta had their Ocular device, where I know it had some hand controls that went along with it, and it was also like the goggle headwear that you put on. The Apple Vision Pro, in a sense, seems to be a step up from what we're seeing on. I know they just released, announced, I should say, that the product and its existence, and I think it's planned to be available come 2024. But it seems to be a step up on the quality, the price of it. Just so everyone knows, it starts at $3,500. So it's not, a new pair of sneakers that add to the collection.
Who's gonna buy it?
Personally, probably not me right away. Don't have that cash to spend on hand.
Well, I wouldn't like. I don't know if I can just justify spending. Like that's why maybe like we did watch so many of those promotion videos.
Yeah.
And I didn't see a good reason for me to say, oh, like this is something that I should be buying. Is that thing gonna sell, or is it like is there really a need for that?
Well, that's what I've seen. So in some of the videos I was watching, they do have the prototypes that they did have limited access to some of the people to be able to review it, and the notable people that they can say their piece, their 2 cents on it. And some of the themes I've seen with them, they're saying that it's not going to be a product for the masses. So it's not, everyone's not going to have, oh, I have my Vision Pro, where it's going to be a more select group that would even pursue that. And like you're saying, what is the product used for? What would the need kind of fulfill there? You're saying, is it more of like a computing connection sense, or is it more of a leisure activity? Because this goes anywhere from being able to sit and watch a movie, like as if you're in a virtual.
You do that by yourself.
Yeah. So you're
like
not.
It's almost like promoting the individual isolation.
Yeah.
That's a better term. Isn't that kind of worrying?
I would say so. I know, like, think about your physical activity, where if you're just, I know for people think, oh, you sit in the office or on a computer too, you're not moving around as much, but you're literally not even making eye contact with people now. Like the cameras they have, it's actually a 2-way camera, where if you had the headset on, you're looking at the person, they would just see like camera image of your eyes behind it. So you're behind the shield and you're just looking at, you can do anything from like photos, movies. You can have it where with your MacBook, if you look at your MacBook, that Bluetooth connection will actually pick it up, and then your computer screen will be displayed under that the goggle eyewear that you're wearing. And the one big thing that they do have on it is just it's now has eye tracking, as opposed to the other ones where you might have to use your hands like a device to click. It's actually just moving your eye movement, so you're not even moving your head. It's just all eye tracking. So,
but then with the
and yeah, so
commands, like you have to do this, right?
yep, you just touch your index finger to
Mhm.
thumb, and that'll be like the select button as if you're clicking a mouse. But literally, you can just have your head still. So that's what I was saying. Like in my mind, I was like, oh, someone who's paralyzed almost to be able to use this just by moving their eyes, and as long as they could touch.
So I did actually look to see if there was any healthcare use or potential, but then in the first 100 results, it didn't mention anything about healthcare.
Yeah.
So
leisurely.
now, it's funny that like how these people are making us talk about their product for free. So we're almost promoting.
I'll tell you, you open YouTube, that's like a 9-minute ad. I can only imagine what they spent on their paid advertising, but it's like a 9-minute Apple. It just keeps saying the Vision Pro over and over.
But some of those people are paid.
Oh yeah, like on a
paid.
channel. Yeah, like
No one's paying us,
but
right? So, but I was really looking to see, like, number one, if there's a new technology.
Mhm.
So I was telling you this a little bit yesterday. So every time I look at our adaptability with anything new, so can I actually adapt? So then if it stops, the problem is it's almost admitting the fact that you are becoming old. So if you stop, like, for example, if there's social media, so I had a choice maybe not to do many of these, like the YouTube, like if right now, the reason we picked up YouTube a lot better is because we commit our time and effort, and like we can do this anywhere without needing anyone, right?
yeah.
So then, but then there's a point where I feel like, okay, it's too much for me. This is one of those products. So then I don't want to be old, or I don't feel old, but the worry that what I'm worried about is like this is going to pick up and it's going to become the new.
You don't want to be left behind.
Next best thing,
Yeah.
and then you are not able to adapt. So that's like the Snapchat. So I never picked up that.
No.
So
social media platform.
right. So like my nephews, they all blocked me. So initially I had the account. So then
Well, that would discourage anyone, right?
right. So they didn't want to actually be visible apparently. So this is a way of getting
There you go.
getting out of the parents or the family's eyes. So, but this one is interesting because is it more limiting or is it more giving me more freedom? That's where I'm not sure if how important it is. So, because one of the other things that I was like after we talked yesterday, I read this article and I did tweet, and if you have time, we should actually maybe cover this next week. This is the Red Park. So what it teaches us about the addiction. So the very short summary of it. So the rats, if they are interacting with others, so they are given two choices. One, water is just clean. The other one has cocaine. So if they're by themselves, they always go after the cocaine. So then they become addicted, and then 2 weeks later they die. And then if there's a rat park in their, fish tank or whatever, the cage, and then there are other rats in there, they actually don't go after they go after the clean water, not the one with cocaine. And then they socialize better, and then they actually live longer, and they're happier. They have sex, they have babies, blah, blah. So I think, and then because that's also kind of your major with the from college, right? So it would be interesting to kind of just tie that into this, because when you are isolating, any new technology is making us less depending on others. We are losing, and we will lose a big portion of who we are. So a lot of people are depressed because they don't have friends, they don't have family members, they can't talk to others. So then they're not able to process things. So this one was my initial reaction, or my justification of why I didn't like this, is because maybe it's promoting individuals way too much, so that it may actually, especially for younger people, it will make them less visible and less socialized with others. So hopefully, again, we always want to be wrong when we are telling something that is not so positive. So we'll be back next week. Next week is our
we should have our
it's the second week, right? So that's the wellness webinar. We'll have a clinical presentation, and if we have time, we'll still cover maybe some of the other issues.